Hey, what's going on, fam? So this is going to be another quick video addressing the confusion that comes out of the ADOS movement. So as you guys can see up on your screen, there's a collage of YouTube comments that I put together. Now, just to explain the collage before I start to discuss it and use it for the purpose of this video, I want to explain it real quick. Basically, what you see up on your screen is 5 different YouTube comments from 5 different people. Now, these comments they were different lengths. So in order to fit them all in this collage, I had to cut some of them short. But I am going to be doing a constructive discourse video either later today or tomorrow, probably. Sometime soon, sometime in the next few days. I'm not going to say an exact day that I'm going to do it, but sometime probably at the latest by Monday, I will be releasing another constructive discourse video in which some of these comments that you see up here, especially some of the ones that I cut off, I will be reading them in full. But I couldn't do that for the purposes of this video because I wanted to put them all in one picture, and I couldn't fit them all in one picture. So with that being said, the reason why I'm putting these together is because, or I couldn't fit all of the comments in full in this picture. I could fit them all, but I couldn't fit them all in full. So what I did was the ones that were longer, I just cut out the part that was important for the purposes of this video. So with that being explained, without further ado, let's go ahead and read the comments. But one more other quick explanation before I start reading them. The reason why I'm reading these is to, just as I said at the beginning, to display the confusion that comes out of the ADOS movement. So let's go ahead and get into the comments. So the first comment is from a guy named Davis Testera, and I've read his comment before in my Constructive Discourse Part 2 video. But basically what he's saying is, you are kind of stoop. Down ballot strategy, and this is his way of calling me stupid, I guess. A baby-like way of calling me stupid. But he says, down ballot strategy is voting only for what you know and skipping everything else. The problem have, so he's not using correct grammar, but I'm stoop. So the problem have is Democratic down ballot. It has nothing to do with primaries versus general. You are aware you have state elections and local elections all the time. So yes, we have state and local elections that Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore instructed him to vote for. That's why he's saying state and local elections. You know, state and local green light elections, which is a double entendre. And if you don't know what that means, Google it. Entedre. Entedre, double entendre. Basically, a double entendre is something that has two meanings. Now, with this green light laws, obviously it means green light as in reference to driving and getting a driver's license. But it also kind of means green light as far as the Democrats have put a green light on black people and ADOS people in particular. Because for those of you who know somewhat about street lingo, a green light is when somebody has given license to murder you on sight. When they see you, it's instant murder, basically. And that's basically what the Democrats have done to ADOS with this prioritizing everyone above us, even though we're facing 2053. They've put a green light on ADOS people. So it has a double meaning. Green light for driving, but also it's a green light on ADOS people and ADOS life. So that's who the leader of the ADOS organization has instructed their followers to vote for, and that's why he's saying this. But the main reason why I read his comment was to point out, he said that it has nothing to do with primaries versus general. So it has nothing to do with primaries versus general. So let's remember that as we read the next comment. So this is another comment that I've also posted before. This is a comment on my video, What Happened to ADOS Black Agenda, a rant part 1. This is from a brother named Brandon Burr, and he says, and he's not a troll. So let me also say, not everyone whose comments I'm reading, I'm considering trolls yet. However, after this video and my constructive discourse video, if some of the comments of the people who I don't consider trolls continue from them, I will have to consider them trolls. Because even though some of these people I don't consider trolls, especially because they've supported my channel and posted mostly positive, supportive comments in the past. Just like with Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore deviating from the original plan, no matter how much you've been supporting my channel, if you start to become illogical, if you start to troll, and you start to do a lot of things, especially after I've warned you about how fallacious some of your arguments are, I will be forced to put you in the troll box, despite your previous support. So I wanted to be known, even though I appreciate some of these people supporting my channel and know they don't always have to agree, their disagreements need to be constructive. And especially in my constructive discourse video, I'm going to show why some of these disagreements are non-constructive, because they are illogical arguments. But that's going to be in the constructive discourse video. But I just wanted to put out that disclaimer. Not everyone in this collage that I'm reading is considered a troll, at least not yet. But anyway, let's go ahead and read the Brandon Burr comment. This brother says, there is still a black agenda goal. I don't participate in primary because I don't follow any particular parties. I vote for what I think is best for me and my group. Yvette was speaking in the main election, and it's up to the people to vote or not. So it's up to the people to vote or not is a lie. That's why Yvette said that it makes you appear lazy and you must stay engaged, because the second you miss one voting cycle, you'll never vote again. That's basically what she said. Yvette made it clear that it is not okay to not vote. So I'm going to need y'all to stop lying. That's an example of what I was just referring to about how even though these people are not trolls, they make non-constructive comments by lying, because that is a lie. This brother has some cognitive dissonance because he wants to believe that Yvette is still on code when she's not. So he's telling himself excuses to make it so that she is saying what he wants her to say instead of dealing with what she actually said. That's why he's saying it's up to the people to vote or not. No, it's not. Yes, to a degree, we all have free will, and Yvette is not laying down a law, a federal law that requires ADOS to vote. That's Captain Obvious information. I shouldn't have to explain that. But yes, some trolls will try to use that. Oh, she's not making you vote because she can't force you. Okay, yes, it's obvious she can't force us. But as a figurehead in the ADOS movement, she is giving the negative and poisonous advice that it is a bad thing to refrain from voting. She's made that clear. So I'm going to need y'all to plead, whether I consider you a troll or not. If I consider you a troll, you're probably already blocked. But if I don't consider you a troll, I'm going to need you to please stop lying and stop saying that Yvette said that it's okay to not vote, because she has never said that. She has never said that. But the main reason why I read his comment was to read the part that says she was speaking about the main election, aka the general election. So we have the first comment that says it has nothing to do with primaries versus general, and then we have the second comment that says it's only about the general. So now let's read the third comment. Now this is one of the comments I had to cut short because it was too long, but the main part is, and it's from a brother named Antonio ADOS NYC, and he says, I feel the agenda for us has already been set. You can decide on your own if you want to go that route or not. Again, yes, of course, technically we have the free will. That's obvious. Yvette is not a king, a queen of America, or a queen of ADOS who can lay down laws, but she did not say that. But let's continue. You can decide on your own if you want to go that route or not. I would have to go back and listen to her again, listen again to her show and see what she says about it. I am positive that she did not say vote in the primary. Maybe she did. I am sure she was referring to the general election. But out of respect for your point of view, you may be correct. So now we got three different views. One brother swears she didn't say anything about the primary, which she did. I exposed that in my What Happened to the ADOS Black Agenda Part 2 video. She did say something about the primary. But he's also agreeing that it's about the general. So I have one person saying it has nothing to do with primary versus general. And now two people saying it's about the general. But one of those two people was saying that she never mentioned the primary, which she did. So let's continue. And again, if you guys haven't caught on already, these are all people who are in one way or another defending the ADOS movement, or their figureheads, or both. All right? So these are all people these are not Tariq Nasheed fans. These are not Jason Black fans. These are Yvette Carnell defenders and supporters, or ADOS movement / organization defenders and supporters. So then, this is from a guy who I do consider a troll, even though I haven't blocked him yet, I do consider him a troll. His name is Jermaine Woods. He says, I'm refuting this right now. Revolution meant people who say, let's fight the government, which is a lie. Um, well, let me just continue to read. This was in reference to that Hebrew shooting. That's why you cut her clip short. She wasn't saying that they'll surveillance you if you don't vote. She was talking about people who are willing to go to war against the government. This is another dishonest lie, because Yvette was linking no black agenda, no vote people to the Hebrew people. That's why she kept talking about how if you're educating people and you don't give them a solution, because she keeps saying that no black agenda, no vote people don't have a solution, which is untrue. We do. You just don't agree with the solution. But again, if the standard is whether or not you agree with the solution, then Yvette Carnell doesn't have a solution either, because I don't agree with down ballot, because it is doing the same thing that we have been doing. So we do have a solution. But Yvette Carnell's lie is that we don't. So that was her way of connecting us to the Hebrew shooting, is by saying that this is what happens when you educate people but you don't give them a solution. That was her way of saying that the no black agenda, no vote people are like the Hebrews, and that we don't give our people a solution, and that can lead them to shooting up or being seen as some kind of terroristic threat. That's what she was saying. That's why she brought it up and started babbling about not having a solution, when that has nothing to do with anything. But I digress. So let's continue with his comment. And then he says, she's always said that it was about the primary. This is the primary election. Her advice was for this election cycle, which starts off with the primary. Donald Trump isn't even in the primary and will be running in the general. But I'll be breaking this down plus the other vid. What was the black agenda in 2016? In the other vid, you credited no black agenda to vote for. What was the black agenda? Reparations wasn't a thing then. So what was the black agenda? Yes, it was a thing then. That's why we canceled Bernie. Fool, you just weren't around because you were probably supporting Bernie. Yes, there was a black agenda. And again, first of all, it's not really our job. Yes, it helps to come up with a black agenda just so you can compare it and be able to prove that the politicians don't have one. But it is not really our job to come up with a black agenda. Just like white people don't have to come up with their own Medicare for All plan or their own student loan forgiveness. The politicians come up with that. That's number one. But number two, yes, we were. That's why you can go back to the first video on my channel and see why I said or what the video was about. That's why I keep referencing it, because that video was 3 years now before I even mentioned the word ADOS on my channel. The first time I mentioned ADOS on my channel was my ADOS versus Pan-Africanism videos. I made that Why Are Black People Voting my first video 3 years before I released an ADOS versus Pan-Africanism video, or 2.5 years before I mentioned ADOS ever on my channel. So just because you weren't around in 2016 demanding a black agenda doesn't mean anybody was. But the main reason why I read this dude's comment is because notice he said it's only about the primary. So I got two people, well, three people saying that it has nothing to do with the primary, and one person saying it's only about the primary. And I got one of those three people that's saying it has nothing to do with the primary, saying that she never even mentioned primary, which is not true. But let's continue to the last comment. So the last comment is from a sister named Paris K. Armani. This is another comment that I had to cut short. But the main part I'm going to read is, she says, while I usually agree with most of your little rants, this one feels more like a reach than a rant, in my opinion. YC, which stands for Yvette Carnell, has always stated that the purpose of the down ballot strategy is to keep us politically engaged. This still coincides within the whole no tangibles, no vote momentum that we've developed over the past year. All the explanations you listed were mostly her responses to the various smear campaigns from the opposition. Now, her last sentence, all these explanations were mostly responses to the various smear campaigns. I'm going to just address that in a constructive discourse video, because I'm going to read her whole comment in the constructive discourse video. But let's address the main part that I'm using her comment for this video, and that's where she says the purpose of the down ballot strategy is to keep us politically engaged. I don't know if this sister has been in a bunch of relationships with deceivers or what kind of people are around her to where she's used to being lied to. But why is it so hard to simply say what you mean? Because if you understand white supremacy, you understand that black people already normally vote for Democrats. You also know that it is a bad thing that we normally and naturally vote for Democrats and remove all leverage to get an actual black agenda from Democrats or Republicans. Even though, yes, it is technically kind of more likely, even though we've seen no evidence to this point that they are willing to do it. Technically, yes, it's supposedly more likely for a Democrat to pass a black agenda or something that's in favor of black people. But we've seen no evidence of it. They've never done it. That's why we are in a position where we need to create an ADOS or FBA movement because of the economic condition we are in, because of the fact that we have been supporting Democrats with no return on investment. So if you are someone who understands white supremacy and understands that from the beginning, it should be natural to you, if your only purpose is for people to stay politically engaged, is to simply say that. Is to simply say, hey, I don't care who you vote for. I just want you to stay engaged, because if you don't, it'll make you appear lazy and you'll stop voting. You'll never be engaged. And if you're not engaged, we can never get reparations. That's all you have to say. It should be natural to you to say that. Just say what you meant. Because if you say vote Democrat down ballot, which is exactly the words that have come out of Antonio Moore and Yvette Carnell's mouths on more than one occasion, that's what that means. Vote Democrat down the ballot, all the way down the ballot. And if that's not what you meant, just say what you meant. Like I said, I don't know if the sister is used to being in relationships with liars or what it is, or she's got a bunch of people in her family, or her father or mother was a liar, or whatever it was. But this is people who are so used to being lied to that they just naturally make excuses for liars. Just say what you meant, especially when you know the way black people vote already normally, and how that is a bad thing that we already vote that way normally. That's why we get green light laws before we get a black agenda from these local politicians that Yvette Carnell told you to vote for. That's how we get green light laws. But the main reason why I read this comment is because of the fact that she said that it's only about staying engaged. So again, these are 5 different people who are trying to defend either the down ballot strategy or the figureheads in one way or another. And none of them have the same answer. So what you have to be able to conclude, if nothing else, if you're still going to be a suicide down ballot supporter, because that's what it is, it's suicide down ballot. Political suicide down ballot. That's why you're getting green light laws from these people. Despite all the momentum that the ADOS movement has created, these are recently passed laws. The ADOS movement has been doing the work and on the ground for almost a year now, or over a year. Remember, y'all are the ones who do all the work and actually politically engage and are actually going to be the ones that get us reparations. So with all the work y'all been doing, you're still getting, at this point, green light laws from the local Democrats, because the local Democrats are the ones who are passing these laws. City and state lawmakers are the ones who are passing these laws. You should naturally be able to say, just vote down ballot. I don't care who you vote for. I just want you to stay engaged. That took me 10 seconds to say that. It's not like Yvette had to sit down and do an hour-long lecture to be able to say, I want you to stay engaged. I just proved it. I want you to vote down ballot because it keeps you from looking lazy, and it keeps you engaged from the process, and it keeps you from totally dropping out the process forever. That's all you got to say. You don't have to say Democrat, because when you say Democrat down ballot, that's what that means. So just learn to say what you mean. And for those of you who want to defend people who don't say what they mean, learn to demand people to be honest with you. Learn to demand honesty from people. Because honesty should be natural unless you're a deceiver or you're highly confused. But the point is that even if you are a defender of the ADOS movement and organization, you have to admit that there's a lot of confusion coming out this movement. And if you're someone who studied Neely Fuller's work, You know that confusion is one of the number one tools of a white supremacist. And it's one of the number one dangers to a non-white person, especially a black person, who's trying to come up with a strategy to topple or damage white supremacy. You should not have confusion. But even if you don't study Neely Fuller, you have to admit that these people have failed to explain it clearly, and the fact that they are not admitting that they failed to explain it clearly makes you look like a deceiver. That's why I use the Angela Rye, or however you pronounce her name, tweet. Is because when you totally flip the script from the things you've been doing before, and you don't admit to the contrary or confusing things you said before, that is a sign that you are a deceiver, or that you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And like Yvette and Tone have said, if you don't know what the hell you're talking about, you need to step aside. Just like they say about Charlemagne and other people who I'm not defending. But the standard remains the same. If you don't know what you're talking about, you need to step aside. And there are some people who have tried to defend them by saying they didn't do a good job at explaining the strategy. They've admitted this, some of their defenders. And I've said this, but I'll reiterate it. If a person who is not good at a strategy, or a person who comes up with a strategy is not good at explaining it, either A, that tells you something about that person, B, it tells you something about that strategy, or C, it tells you something about both. What do I mean? Either A, that person's ability to think is flawed. That's why they can't explain their strategy, even if their strategy is a good idea. B, their strategy is flawed, so even though the person may not necessarily have a flawed way of thinking, their strategy is flawed. That's why they can't explain it, even though their thinking isn't flawed, because their strategy is flawed. And they can't explain all the holes in it and all the inconsistencies in it. Or C, both the person's ability to think and their strategy is flawed. So basically, that's the purpose of this video, is to show the undeniable confusion that has been created by the ADOS movement. And if you are not at least willing to be honest about the confusion, I'm going to have to start considering you a troll, because I provided too much proof, especially with this video, of all the confusion and all the different explanations, along with my running list video and all my other down ballot videos. She keeps providing different explanations. And every time something new happens, like the Hebrew shooting, she comes up with a new explanation that she didn't explain when she first explained the strategy. I've already played the audio. Y'all heard what she said when she first explained the strategy. She said down ballot, and Tone made sure to step in and make it clear that they're talking about the Democrats. That's why they made sure to publicly jump out the window on Tariq Nasheed. And no, this is not a video to defend the man, but that's why they publicly jumped out the window on him, was to make it known that, hey, we are still in the bag for Democrats, just minus the least impactful vote, the presidency. Because down ballot means everybody but the president. That's what it normally means. And if that's not what they meant, they should say that. It's not that hard. But anyway, fam, that's another video. Like I said, look out for my constructive discourse video, because some of these comments that I cut short, I'm going to be reading in full, or rereading to address some other points that I didn't address in this video. So look out for that video when I release it. But this is another video. Like, share, subscribe, and peace.